What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Going to be doing some suspension work to my 1991 Fox Body Mustang. The last video, if you guys are following along, was me taking the car out and driving it. I complained afterwards, or at least I should say at the beginning of the video, which was recorded after the drive. I had complained that due to connection issues, I got no data on that run at all. 18 minutes of driving around, no data whatsoever. So not super excited about it. So in an attempt to resolve that issue, I have sent my engine management system across the country over to Georgia to have some modifications done to it. Probably something that most people could do themselves. I didn't feel like taking the thing apart and risk messing it up, even though I could easily added a DB9 connector for just a few dollars, and I'm sure I can find a cable laying around somewhere. If not, how much is a DB9 or cable, serial cable, going to really cost? A couple bucks. But I opted to spend a little bit extra money, send it to the manufacturer, let them upgrade it to the M8 cable, which screws into place. No more 2.5mm headphone jack, so I'm hoping that I won't have that problem anymore. But since I can't drive the car, I still want to get some stuff done so it's ready to go for the next test as soon as that computer comes back, which realistically is going to be like a month. Figure 1 week to get there, 1 week to come back, and they told me they'd have it about 2 weeks. So with that said, I've got a couple things in the works. Today is going to be a suspension day, but what I was fiddling with yesterday would be this right here. This is the old boost controller, typical boost controller, electronic boost controller that you'd normally run, where boost pressure is sent to this solenoid as well as to the bottom of the wastegate, and then the solenoid fluctuates depending on the duty cycle, and it will send boost pressure to the top of the wastegate to basically help close it, and that's what creates more boost. As you know, I'm testing this CO2 boost controller. So when I did do my last test drive, granted it was real quick and I have no data to back this up, but it seemed like it was struggling to spool. So I'm going to add this in line between the turbo and the bottom of the wastegate, so I can basically cut off all air going to the wastegate when I'm spooling up. Once I let go of the trans brake, it'll open back up and allow boost pressure to do what it's supposed to do, which is regulate or I said pass to the wastegate, which will then regulate boost pressure. But anyways, that is something I'll be testing later. But basically the idea is that it will stop any air from pushing the wastegate open until I hit a certain RPM, and at that point everything will go back to normal, and in theory it should help me spool up the turbos. So this will help spool the turbos faster, and then these two will control the boost pressure. As I go down the track, it'll progressively add boost. It seemed to be working on the test drive, but I have no data to back it up. So I'm looking forward to getting some data once I take the car out again. But anyways, today is going to be a suspension day. I took a couple of measurements. The no corner is even. Obviously the nose sits a little lower, which is fine. That's how I want it to sit. But side to side in the front is off, as well as side to side in the back. So first I'm going to start on the back, since it is obviously most easy to access. I might be able to push the car back when the time comes to work on the front, but then I'll have to push it back in because I can't start it without the computer. So let me get out some tools and a jack and all that good stuff, and we'll go from there. All right, so before attempting to make any adjustments to the suspension, I took initial measurements with a tape measure from the ground to the fender where it starts to roll under. That way I had a constant point for measurements, and I wasn't that far off. At first I put compressed air in the tires to make sure that they were even, made sure they were exactly the same. So I took my measurements. I'm like, okay, I'm not that far off. That's pretty good. Then I remembered that the anti-roll bar was still connected. When I took that off, I realized there was a ton of preload or side load or whatever you want to call it in it. And when I got that bolt out and released the pressure, I went back and took measurements, and it's almost an inch off side to side. So I have a lot of adjustment I'm gonna have to do. Driver's side, which was all my suspension geometry was measured off the driver's side. So I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm gonna make this one match it. So with that said, this side's got to come down almost a full inch to make it sit the same as the other one. So that's the goal. I'm gonna go ahead and basically drop this side down. I'll crawl under there, make a couple marks on the coil so I know where exactly I'm adjusting it from, and then I will get out some wrenches and adjust it. Okay, here's where I'm at now. So since I'm about 3/4 of an inch off side to side, my plan is, since this is the side that is actually too low, and I'll actually, by lifting this side 1/4 of an inch, I'll get a little bit of clearance between the tire and the fender, which so far it hasn't rubbed. I don't really drive crazy fast on the street unless I'm making a pull, and at that point the suspension should be, you know, dropped down based off of the geometry. You know, anti-squat numbers are pretty high. But if I lower it another 1/4 of an inch, that will get me a little bit more anti-squat, which is good, simply because I run on a radial tire, so that's not going to hurt me. It'll actually help with traction. And then on the other side, I will go ahead and lower it about a 1/2 inch, and the two modifications should get me to pretty much dead on level side to side. And at that point, I'll be good with the rear end. So gonna make a couple adjustments. I know it's probably not the most scientific way, but the way I do it is this vertical black line tells me I need to be lined up with this adjustment knob, because this can turn, the threads can turn in relation to the body of the shock. And then this black line right here tells me where it was, and then I just have to slide it up 1/4 of an inch and then lock it back down with the set screw. Okay, it took a couple tries, but height-wise, it's exactly the same. I measured out. I mean, if it's off by anything, it's a 32nd of an inch. Definitely not going to lose any sleep over that. The other issue is that with it sitting level right where I want it, it's become obvious that the axle is more than likely this way in relation to the body by about a 1/16 of an inch. Again, not something I'm going to lose sleep over. I'm not going to go and adjust it. But as a result, clearance is almost non-existent up here. And the first bump I hit, I'm going to start tearing up my tire. And in fact, you can actually already see wear marks from where it has rubbed in just a few short drives I've been on with this car. So while I have the car in the air, I'm just going to pull this tire off, cut the lip off completely. It's not a show car. I know people like to roll that fender under. Apparently that's a nicer look. I don't know. You can't really tell in my mind. But since I don't have to worry about paint, any scratches I make, I'm just going to throw, you know, I got sitting over there an entire case of this same paint. So if I slip and grind the wrong thing, so be it. I'll just repaint it. Take 2 seconds. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Tire's coming off, and we'll get the grinder out. Okay, now it's time to start on the front end. This side, I've already taken measurements. This side's up about 1/4 of an inch higher than the other side. I don't want the nose down in the weeds, so rather than, I mean, I could drop the other side and this side, as you can clearly see, probably a solid inch, but I don't plan to do that. What I want to do is lower this side the 1/4 of an inch that it's off. That way they're both level, they'll look good. I don't want the nose too far down also because of, you know, I'm sure it would make weight transfer not quite as easy. So you can see it actually doesn't look that bad on this side, so I'm happy with it. It doesn't need to go lower. Part of keeping the car level requires the front end to be up high like that, because the back has a 28-inch tire and the front runs a 26. So in order to get it to sit somewhat level, obviously the front end just has to be lifted slightly higher because the tire is shorter. So that's the plan right now. Back end was way more work than I thought it would be. I had to go back and forth, probably 20 times total to get it right, because I know you're thinking, hey, why don't you just measure and do it once? Well, I did measure, and every time I measured and made an adjustment based off of my measurements, it's like I got nowhere. So it got to the point where it was just easier trial and error. Trial and error was easier. It took a little bit longer. Well, I can't even say that because measurement was getting me nowhere. So who knows how long I would have been going nowhere if I kept measuring. But anyways, I got it right. We're within a 32nd of an inch difference from side to side. I reinstalled the anti-roll bar with 0 preload. So it should, in theory, go nice and straight. Won't know until the computer comes back. But that's the plan for now. So I'm going to start working on this side and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so it's finally back on the ground. I have it sitting level side to side, give or take a 1/16 of an inch. The back I have within probably a 32nd of an inch. So we're dead on side to side as far as I'm concerned. You'll never be able to tell from the naked eye. And I really doubt anyone's going to pull out a measuring tape and walk up to my car to double check. Since cars aren't perfect anyways, good chance that, you know, my bone stock daily driver is sitting slightly different side to side. If you're wondering what all of this metal shavings is laying around on the ground all of a sudden, while I was not recording because it took way longer than I thought, I did try to grind a little bit on my brake caliper to see if I can get enough clearance to set the wheel further back. There is a spacer behind it, a very thin spacer, 5/16, needed to clear those giant four piston brake calipers. I ground down as much as I felt safe doing, and it just wasn't enough to get it to clear. So I ordered a smaller 1/8 of an inch spacer. So it'll get me an extra 3/16 of an inch, tuck the tire further in, so that it matches the other side. Once it's tucked in, that 3/16 of an inch. I know that doesn't sound like much, I'm just splitting hairs, but you know, it's the type of stuff that bugs me. But anyways, it'll be within maybe an 1/8 of an inch side to side as far as how far the wheel sticks out or is tucked back in. So that'll be all good. At this point, this project's done as far as I'm concerned. Until that wheel spacer comes on, I'm not going to sit around for a week just to take a 2-second clip of the tire tucked in slightly further. You'll never be able to tell. I'll be able to tell, but you won't be able to tell on video. So like I said, as far as I'm concerned, this project's done. As soon as my computer comes back, I will get to test out the this third boost solenoid to see if I can spool up the turbos faster. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I can't do anything without the computer. So yeah, I guess that's it. The car's in great shape. I'm ready to make some more pulls. I just need my computer back. So hopefully you guys enjoyed me ramble about my ridiculous suspension paranoia. I don't know, the slight differences side to side bugged me. Probably no one else would have noticed, but it bothered me a lot, so I had to take care of it. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'll catch you guys for the next one. And stay safe, build something cool, have fun.